Hello, fellow Kong heads. Is that what we call ourselves? I don't know anymore. Look, I'ma just come out here and say this. I was initially planning on ranking the worlds and tracks in both DK Jungle Climber games and the Barrel Blast game, but well, I had to change plans. Mostly cause I didn't play any of these games until just this year. Yeah, I skipped these during the DS and Wii era. I knew they existed, but they just didn't interest me. And playing them as an adult, well, I got issues. So instead of dedicating a big ranking video, I'm just gonna talk about these 3 games in a short form video I'm simply gonna call the Paon Trilogy. I'll just give my general impressions on them and what I like and dislike. First, let's talk about Donkey Kong King of Swing and Jungle Climber. These are a pair of games that released for the Game Boy Advance and DS respectively. They're a pair of... I don't know what to really call them, honestly. Physics-based platformers? The controls of these games are simple. DK jumps in front of these walls that have these little nubs on them. Hit the L or R button on the shoulder of your console to have DK grab onto the nubs with his relevant arms. DK will then swing in a clockwise or counterclockwise motion until you let go, at which point he will launch himself in whatever direction he was swinging. Or you can grab onto 2 nubs at a time and launch yourself forward, usually as an attack. Mechanically, this game feels very odd and very jank in an old school way. And when I say old school, I don't mean the NES, I mean SpongeBob Botocross. Less like a true blue Nintendo platformer, even on their handhelds, and more like a Flash game you'd find on Newgrounds in the mid-aughts. The physics-based nature of it gives Donkey Kong a sort of floaty feel to him that makes precision platforming a real crapshoot. These games can get really difficult at times, but not in a way that I think is really conducive to fun and engaging gameplay. Let me explain one big issue I have with this game in a way I hope you can visually understand. Which of these hands is right and which one is left? Okay, you got it? Now which hands are right and which ones are left? Now which one is right and which one is left? How about now? Or now? Now, which one is right and which one is left? If you were able to follow this easily, then congratulations, this game may just be for you. I have trouble with my rights and my lefts already, and this game can be a real test of your spatial awareness. I'll admit, I missed more than my fair share of handholds entirely because I wasn't quite sure which trigger I needed to be pressing. And also, I'll be frank, my fingers really started to hurt after beating both of these games. I don't know why, but just something about having to hold down the left or right trigger and alternate between them a bunch, they just started to get sore after a while. Chaotic physics-based movement, combined with some precise platforming and some truly brutal later levels, also made me think Bennett Foddy had a hand in these games. Which might be a good or bad thing depending on your prerogative. But I think ultimately Paon understood they made a bit of an unwieldy beast in this quote-unquote series of games with their approach to the second entry. Jungle Climber is a much easier game than King of Swing, but that's not necessarily due to improved gameplay. Yes, there's some quality of life changes here. You no longer need to charge a rolling attack by grabbing 2 nubs, and charge moves in general have been buffed. But my smoking gun evidence comes in the form of the crystal power-up that Donkey Kong gets in Jungle Climber. This power in King of Swing made you invincible, while in Jungle Climber, it makes you invincible and you can fly.
Think of a wonderful thought, any merry little thought.
Flying in a platformer, where you need to ascend and avoid hazards. Your power-up is in fact a skip the level button. And at least when New Super Mario Bros. Introduced a game-breaking infinite invincibility power-up, they explicitly tell you it's to help less skilled players beat the game. This power-up feels like an admission that the mechanics aren't refined enough for the platforming it wants you to do, and as such they create a power-up that lets you bypass the mechanics entirely. Although I will say, there is a certain charm and fun with jumping from nub to nub, and having to anticipate your momentum correctly. The chaos of physics-based platforming does have an appeal that I understand on some level. It's just best implemented in a game without a live system, and that actually makes use of its chaotic nature. So overall, mechanically, both of these games are a mixed bag, and if they were just gauged mechanically, I would have little trouble saying these games aren't worth looking into. However, there is one sticking point about these games that DKC fans in particular tend to note. See, King of Swing and Jungle Climber both have King K. Rool as the main antagonist of their games, and this would be the last time King K. Rool would appear as Donkey Kong's antagonist. He would make an appearance in Super Mario Sluggers and obviously Smash Ultimate, but in terms of him being an antagonist in a Donkey Kong game, yeah, this is it. I do appreciate Paon for understanding that this simple antagonistic relationship is the backbone for the Country franchise. I'll get into it soon, obviously, but a lot of the later Donkey Kong games would ignore the Kremlings and K. Rool for new antagonists, to, mixed results. The plot of King of Swing is as simple and basic as it gets. The Kongs are holding a swinging contest of some kind, and King K. Rool steals all the medals. Because he's just a jerk like that. There isn't much else to say outside of that, honestly. DK beats K. Rool and gets the medals back, and then you can play as Diddy Kong. The game really did just do the now you can play as Luigi thing, huh? Anyway, Jungle Climber has a much more ambitious story. And by ambitious, I mean weird. See, King K. Rool has stolen these crystal bananas from an alien that looks like a banana, called Zananab, from the planet Plantain. This character will absolutely be appearing in Bonanza. Just you watch. It's gonna happen. I'm just being silly. But wait a minute.
Fine, banana, fine.
DK beats K. Rool with the power of the crystal bananas, and then Zananab and all the other Plantainians celebrate by offering us more bananas. Diddy Kong points out that this is weird, but then they celebrate. Yes, thank you for feeding us your young, mysterious alien race. We really appreciate it. Good God, this guy is just a Rick and Morty character, isn't he? Comparing the two, I think King of Swing looks better and has more solid level design, but I like Jungle Climber's story and core mechanics a bit more. Either way, I think both these games are about equivalent to one another. Do I recommend you play them? Are you really hankering for a Flash game circa 2005? However, we have one more game to talk about, Donkey Kong Barrel Blast. This is a racing game, also developed by Paon, which I don't have much to talk about, because every time I tried to emulate this game with a Wiimote on my PC, it crashed. It crashed more reliably than Launchpad McQuack. And from what little I was able to play and record, I don't think I'd have liked it all that much, to be honest. And to illustrate why, once again, I'll use visuals. How many times did I push the button there? Easy, right? Now, how many times did I waggle the controller? Yeah, starting to see the problem? At the end of the day, any game that utilizes Wii Motion is going to have to account for its imprecise input method. This is why games like Mario Galaxy, and a certain other game we'll be looking at soon, tended to just regulate the motion to one binary input. If you did it, great, it was done. No need to do it more than once. Barrel Blast is not that. It wants you to waggle the controller in the correct way to avoid obstacles to win the race. Again, it crashed a bunch before I could really play it, and I couldn't even get my character to jump. So, obviously, maybe, yeah, I'm missing something by not playing it on original hardware. But, yeah, sorry. I don't care how many playable Kremlings you offer. If your game can't control well, I'm not super interested. Which I think, sadly, is the defining factor of the Paon trilogy. Had Paon simply gone out of their way to make a straightforward 2D platformer or racing game, these games would probably be remembered much more fondly, and I could more wholeheartedly endorse them. But as they are, they're just curiosities from a company and a studio that were obsessed with finding new ways to reinvent the wheel. I just can't really recommend any of them, unless you're like somebody who sleeps in Donkey Kong brand underwear, who just keeps telling himself King K. Rool is going to be in Bonanza, just you watch. Of course, we all know the true GOAT, Zananab, is just waiting for his grand return. Just you watch. He's going to be in there. He'll be there, and he'll save the day, and he'll be Donkey Kong's best friend, and they'll make a spin-off game about Zananab. It'll be Zananab Racing. Five more seasons, Morty. 5 more seasons. Zananab and Diddy Kong. 5 more seasons. Okay, so, finally, we can get to the 2 final games on this list. 2 more videos in this retrospective. Next time, we return.